Hey guys, what is up? It is Bibs7 here again, and welcome to another RuneScape 3 vlog here today. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the stuff that came in with this week's update. Mainly, this video is going to be talking about the comp rework that they released earlier this morning before the update came out. But I will talk about the content and patch notes quickly here. So the new quest came out today as planned, Desperate Times. You can start it at Saren on the first floor of the Berthorpe Castle, and it requires 50 mining, smithing, and divination, as well as the needle skips and the You Are It quest, which we obviously knew previously. I haven't completed the quest yet because obviously I have work today, and I don't think I would have enough time to complete it during my lunch break here and then also make my video about it. So I'm just going to complete it after work today, and then I'll make a video giving my thoughts on the quest itself tomorrow. So yeah, glad to see that they came out with it as planned though, and I will give my thoughts on the actual quest itself when I do complete it tomorrow. So yeah, that'll be we'll have two vlogs this week, and some more discussion. So for the patch notes though, moving on to those, they fixed a lot of bugs and issues that came up as a result of the delayed clan update. So clearly delaying the update didn't give them enough time to polish it out at all. It was still riddled with bugs in the end, but they managed to fix some of those, and they supposedly fixed, they finally fixed the issue with the white squares staying over your action bar even after you hovered off it, which was really annoying. So I'm glad they fixed that. It took them long enough. And apparently they also fixed the disappearing floor decorations that were happening. Let me just go. It was especially blatant at the Tazar City. So yeah, let's check here. And yep, you can see now. Previously, this whole floor texture just wasn't here. The whole floor looked, if you look in the distance out there, that's what the whole floor looked like. Obviously, I'm just not close enough; it'll load in. But yeah, the texture for some reason wasn't loading, and this was happening all over the place with smaller things. But it was easily most noticeable here because it's the entire floor texture wasn't present. So I guess they've also fixed that. Good to see they are, those were making some engine changes, but that was it for the patch notes. Apparently they also fixed some of the crashes, like the teleport ones and stuff, but I hadn't been experiencing those for a little while, so I thought they were already fixed. But yeah, they fixed a bunch of stuff with the engine stuff, so no really significant patch notes, no ninja fixes or anything like that, but just a couple of things I thought I'd mention. And now I'm going to talk about the rework of the comp rework. So yeah, strap in, because this is about to be probably a bit of a rant in some places. But yeah, so this morning, before the update came out, they posted a comp cape simplified design dev blog on the homepage, and basically they are backpedaling extremely hard on their design, which I'm pretty surprised to see them do. They rarely do this, but they've been doing it more so. Recently. At least it seems like that. They've been changing things at a more significant way based on people's feedback or their perception of people's feedback. They rarely do it though, which is why I'm surprised to see this happen. And usually it would be good to see them listening to feedback, but in this case it's really not. And you'll see if you look on the Reddit post, a lot of people are not happy with the backpedal. They thought the other design was better, and this new design doesn't really change too much at all, and it's certainly not worthy of being called a rework at all. They aren't adding any new capes, they're not categorizing achievements, they're not doing anything like that. They're pretty much just making 3 select specific changes. So change number 1, they're removing Reaper from comp. I personally think this is stupid, as the completionist cape will no longer require you to complete all content, which just doesn't make any sense based on the name of the cape and the definition of completionism. However, I hope that this will at least make them less scared to create harder bosses now that this is the case. I know some people would say, bosses can't get too much harder than Solok or High Enraged Telos, but I feel like the reasoning for High Enraged Telos being more difficult in that the only real reason is because you just get hit so hard by auto attacks. Doesn't make for a super fun method of introducing difficulty to the fight, as nothing really changes after 1,000 Enrage in terms of the mechanics. So I'm talking more like a mechanically more difficult fight that will they'll hopefully be less afraid to introduce things like that in the future due to this, but I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see what the next new bosses come out. But their argument for this is that it locks players out from a cape they would otherwise be able to obtain, which is just a stupid reason. Just because people can't, or honestly almost all the time it is will not do it, it doesn't make it a bad requirement. It's just kind of stupid that they would make this their reason for removing it, because, you know, there's other games like, obviously RuneScape's an MMO. I don't really have too much experience with other MMOs, especially not in terms of completionism on them. But for, you know, some random Steam games, like let's take a game I have a lot of experience with and really enjoy. Resident Evil 4 has a professional difficulty where if you complete the professional difficulty, you get a super overpowered weapon that is free to buy from the merchant. And, you know, there's probably some people who are unable to complete it on professional difficulty, but does that mean it shouldn't be a requirement for this super OP best weapon in the game? Not necessarily. It does not, just because of that one reason that people can't do it. I just don't understand why they would take this approach. Obviously, that's not the best comparison in the world. It's not even really the same situation at all in that game or anything like that, but it gets the same point across in general. And I just don't think that I 100% refuse to believe that there are people out there who have really, really honestly tried, put the work in, and gone for Reaper, and have physically or, you know, mechanically been incapable of doing so. I refuse to believe that. They just give up, and they will not do it, and they claim they can't. It's just a fact. If you put enough time in, and you actually practice and try to get good and learn a boss, you will be able to do it. There's nothing in this game that is just ridiculously hard or impossible to do in terms of getting achievements or things like that. So, yeah. You can argue that all you want, but that's just a fact in my opinion. Alongside this, however, they are removing the stats from comp and adding them as a passive buff once you obtain the Reaper achievement, which I still think this is a weird approach with, like, the passive stats, but at least they aren't removing BIS from Reaper, as the only people who would actually need, or maybe you could even say deserve, the best in slot should be willing to get Reaper, without a doubt. One thing, though, that I just randomly thought of, I think it's kind of strange for this, is staking, which not a lot of people do nowadays on RS3, but still, will you need to get Reaper to get those inherent stats to have a chance, or like will they not count in a stake? I'm not sure, just like a random thought I had. But yeah, they also claim this movement of stats to the player instead of the comp cape will allow comp to have more demanding requirements in the future, since people who don't like to skill, like maybe 120 dungeoneering, can just get their stats from Reaper and be done with it. I guess it makes sense, but I can't see them adding requirements more demanding than 120 Dungeoneering and Slayer anytime soon, let alone, obviously, maxing is a pretty decent skilling investment, and you definitely don't need to be maxed to get Reaper title, so I can't see them adding more demanding requirements than maxing or, 120 Dungeon or Slayer anytime soon, but I guess we'll see. They're also making the utility benefits of comp as permanent unlocks, which I don't really like either. As long as you can still keybind my max skill teleport, it's fine, but I don't want to have to pull up an interface to use the things that are normally on my comp cape. Obviously, right now I don't have my comp cape on because I haven't done the new quest, by the way. But for those of you who might not know or haven't seen my videos before, I do have comp. I just need to do the new quest. So that's my perspective on these things. And they claim this will allow them to release more powerful capes in the future, which is, I guess, true. I'd really like to see capes with more niche effects, so there's not just one single best cape for everything. So hopefully we see that going forward. So yeah, those are the two changes, I guess, the Reaper removal and the passive stat change. And lastly, they're also removing the Castle Wars requirement from trim comp. This honestly really surprised me, but I think it's a good thing. I'm sure people will think I'm just super biased because I have Reaper and think its removal is bad. I don't have the Castle Wars requirement, and I think its removal is good. But that's really not my reasoning at all for this, especially because my main focus is my hardcore Iron Man right now, and it has neither of those things. So that's really the perspective I'm coming from. I've discussed this before, but the Castle Wars requirement was just such an insane outlier in terms of the length of time required in comparison to the other requirements, and on top of that, it's not even playing the game during that time. You're basically just AFKing, unless you're the 5 or 6 people who claim they've actually played Castle Wars for that entire time, which you can believe them if you'd like, but I'm not sure if that's true. You just AFK for hundreds of hours for this one random minigame unlock, with no other minigames in the game imposing similar requirements of obtaining their highest or most costly rewards. They say it themselves in their news post that it's wildly out of sync with the other achievements, and if Castle Wars were released today, there would be no way that they'd add this achievement to it. So I think for both of those reasons, it's perfectly reasonable to remove it. And that's just my stance on it. It's just so ridiculous in terms of the amount of time it takes. But people who've already done it will get a golden title, The Profound, which nobody really cares about, but I guess it's something. I don't know. They should probably add something else on top of that. That's just a little bit insulting, honestly, for the amount of time spent. I'd certainly be mad if I'd done it and they were removing it and all I got is this title, but I still would honestly understand the reasoning, as it is ridiculous. People saying this will trivialize trim on Reddit are just emphasizing the need for it to be removed in the first place. If the cape's entire integrity lay in this one AFK requirement, then that requirement should never have even existed to begin with. If that's the main, the main thing that's keeping the cape as an achievement for players. Imagine if you could max all but one skill here on your skills list in 1 hour each, but then there was one skill on there that took 400 plus hours to max out. How stupid would that be? It wouldn't make any sense. So maybe I'll go for trim at some point now, as Castle Wars was always the reason I really just wouldn't do it. But let me know your thoughts on these changes. Overall, I think the changes themselves are generally good, but I'm disappointed, honestly, that they shied away from a large-scale rework, because I think the achievement system itself, not just the capes, could have really benefited from that. Also, they mentioned they will not be bulk adding existing content back to comp and trim, the things that are missing currently, but they may do so slowly in the future. Another thing they also didn't mention were grace periods, which I hope they still do. Just 1 week per update would be fine, unless it's a nuts update like 120 Slayer. It's kind of annoying to me when I... Who's this guy? Oh, just question mark. It's kind of annoying to me when I log in and it just, I log in for the first time on the Monday that the update just happened, and it tells me you no longer have completed all quests. You have not completed the completionist achievement. Please check the achievements tab to see what you have left to accomplish. As you no longer meet the requirements, your completionist cape has been removed. It's not like I had a chance to prevent that. It just, it feels bad logging in and seeing those messages. Even if I do intend to complete the quest today, it's just man, why can't they just literally just give you a single week, and by the next game update, if you've not completed your requirement, then you lose your cape for that until you get it done. It would just make so much more sense to have it, have that system. That being said, though, if they're going with this approach, losing your cape won't mean as much unless you have it on, presets or keepsake or something like that, because the cape itself doesn't actually have the stats or the utilities that you would be wanting to wear it for, I suppose. So, I guess it makes sense that they didn't talk about grace periods here, but I still think it would be a beneficial thing to add, and shouldn't be too difficult to do either. But yeah, that's basically it. It seems so strange to me that they scrapped their entire design that they were thinking of and have gone with this other, much more simplified. This is what everyone's been kind of asking for, that have called for removal of Reaper or Castle Wars in the past. This is pretty much what they've been asking for, but the fact that they gave us that whole big design document of what they wanted to change, reworking nearly the entire achievement system, making things into tiers and clearly defining what goes where, I thought that was good, although it definitely needed a lot more refining and polishing before they were actually ready to roll it out into the game. It was a pretty interesting approach, and this is just so much more simple and basically could have constituted a simple ninja fix on a random patch week. It's just really not that significant in terms of the actual changes being made. Obviously, the impact on players and their opinions are significant, if you want to say that, but it's just not that big of a difference compared to what we have currently. Just a couple of requirements being removed and the stats of the cape being shifted around, as well as the utilities, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically it for this little discussion I wanted to have on the comp rework changes, and you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I did release a poll this morning. I doubt there's any votes, I doubt there's any votes at all, if maybe there's a couple. Sorry, I don't know, I could not fucking talk there for a second. But okay, we got 6 votes on it, and it was basically what people think the Castle Wars requirement should be. and 50% of those 6 votes say it should be removed completely. 33% should say it should stay on trim, and 1 says the new proposed title is enough of a reward. So, you know, who knows where those players are in terms of their experience. They could, you know, have trim or not, I don't know, but 50% of people on those votes say they wanted to remove completely, and that's kind of my stance on it. I don't think the proposed title really is enough, but either way, let me know your thoughts on these changes in the comments down below. And like I said, I will be making a video on the quest itself and my opinions on it tomorrow after I've completed it. So yeah, thanks for checking out the video, you guys, and I will see you tomorrow for that next vlog. Peace out.